Hello lovely people, and welcome back to my Queer History 101 series. Now for those of you who are new here or might have missed a few videos, hi hello, please do hit subscribe. I'm Jessica, and in this series I unpick LGBTQ+ history across the ages to share with you some bits you might not have heard of or discovered. It's all about making those history lessons that we sat through in school just that little bit more colourful. Today we're going to be talking about pulp fiction. No, not that pulp fiction. Yeah, no, it's the lesbian version, which some people, myself included, would argue is much better. What is pulp fiction, I hear you ask? Alright, dictionary definition time. So the Cambridge Dictionary says that the definition of such words are books about imaginary characters and events produced in large quantities and intended to be read by many people. And here's one I read earlier. That's a little Blue Peter reference for you there if you're watching from the UK. Still sore I never got to be a Blue Peter presenter. I would throw myself into that job, 100% bringing my own sticky back plastic. So, lesbian pulp fiction. They were slim paperback books released between the 1940s and 1960s that were, funnily enough, pivotal to the representation of gay and bisexual women during a period where representation didn't really exist at all. And let's be honest, there wasn't a lot of representation for straight women either. Women were, of course, instead expected to cater for their husband's every need, crafting 35 sandwiches a day, polishing shoes, and casually birthing a choir of children when their schedule allowed. However, like many other things in society, these books weren't actually intended for a female audience, but instead as entertainment for men. A tale as old as time. In the 1940s, there was a publishing revolution, which meant printing became cheaper and easier, thus allowing more of these little paperbacks to be created. They were dropped as a first point of call into the pockets of soldiers returning home from war. The books offered many racy subgenres to cater for a spectrum of sexual interests, and were designed to be quickly read and then thrown out, rather than, kept, cherished, displayed. God, just imagine poor Uncle Alfred coming over for tea, casually perusing your bookshelf and then having a heart attack. The books themselves were so popular that some even sold in the millions, and many of these most popular ones were of the lesbian variety. In fact, lesbianism was such a popular theme that one writer in the New York Times in September 1965 penned, "You can get 2 immoral women for the price of 1. Or a buy one, gay one free. On a more serious note though, sadly a significant portion of the books were just as homophobic as the artwork on the covers. They were set in prisons, dorm rooms and boudoirs, and was marketed as true accounts. They were written by men, generally under female pseudonyms, and placed on the shelf as just a cheap thrill for other men to consume. The lives of actual women-loving women weren't really considered. Yet, you knew there'd be a yet. There were around 50 titles written by women for women, penned as pro-lesbian by authors such as Mary Jane Meeker, Valerie Taylor, Artemis Smith and Anne Bannon. And with that much fake lesbianism floating around, it's much easier to slip in under the radar. The first real lesbian book to join the ranks was Women's Barrack, inspired by author Tereska Torres' experience of war. The novel tells the story of an affair between a butch officer and her femme subordinates. It sold approximately 4 million copies and was the 244th best-selling novel in the United States before 1975, which I know you think that's not particularly high, 244th. But if you think about how many novels were sold in the United States before 1975, it's high, okay? It's high up there. Obviously it was banned from Sanity in multiple states. Oh, let's play a game. I want you to tell me whether or not you would buy any of these 5 books based on just the covers and the titles. Do they spark your attention? Game, test audience.
Lesbian.
We've got nothing, we've just got the covers.
Okay.
And then we choose.
Right.
So it's a yay or a nay, that's it.
Okay.
First one, Women's Barracks. This one sold almost 4 million copies.
It's got a woman looking very suggestively at another woman changing whilst holding a cigarette, and she's fully clothed and the other one is half naked.
I'm enjoying the fact that this is just a lot of women together.
Exactly.
I'm not giving you any background information.
I would buy it.
Brilliant, sold. I would also buy this one, The Girls in 3B.
Yeah.
This looks like a moody love triangle.
It's also
Classic.
a gold medal book though. I don't know about this one. The Girls in 3B doesn't sound like, it sounds a bit seedy.
No one looks happy.
No.
It's not a happy threesome, so
I wouldn't go for that one.
no. Oh, okay, this bed we made.
She loved her husband.
And her girlfriend.
I mean, look, and the husband's come along. He looks like he's just enjoying watching the two women.
He's fully clothed.
I mean...
Which one do you think is the wife? I imagine the blonde. The blonde is always the wife.
I think this would... Yeah. I mean, I think I quite like it. I like the kind of... What's that called? Tête-à-toi.
A ménage à trois.
Tête-à-toi. The, like, you know, dilemma of, oh, my husband, but also, ooh, my girlfriend. I think that's always an interesting story.
Well, you say that, but then we stopped watching You, Me, Her.
I know, I was
because we were like,
she's probably going to stay with her husband, isn't she, in this book?
I mean...
But we would be turning the pages to find out and hope that she did not.
True. Sorry, is she cutting her hair?
This one's a bit more to the point.
The strange
Her
path.
choice. Normal marriage or lesbian love?
Wow, that just...
Yeah, right in there. Bit leading. Normal marriage or lesbian love?
I don't think that's the way you're meant to say that.
Normal marriage. Lesbian love. Yeah.
Also, again, I'm assuming the blonde is the wife and the lesbian is the one inexplicably cutting her hair.
I mean, I'd go for this one. I think it sounds quite interesting.
This one looks far more exciting
it.
than the one where they're in bed, to be honest.
Normal marriage or lesbian love? The strange path.
I mean, I imagine at some point there's going to be like a car chase on a cliff.
She also looks more... she's like wearing a nice kind of dress. She's wearing like a nice shirt and trousers. It's not like provocative like that other one was.
I see. There might be more story.
It seems like
in
it might
this.
actually be more of a love story
Yeah,
rather than a sexual thing.
yeah.
I'd go for that one.
Alright.
If it was like, you know, now that I've seen this one, I'd probably drop the other one.
Okay, well, I'm going to purchase this one as well. To fool the world.
Sounds like reading someone's prophecy. To fool the world, they married. For Joan loved women
and Mark preferred men.
It's by Artemis Smith again. Told with unblushing honesty. Why don't you read it in unison? Told with unblushing honesty, here is a penetrating study of society's greatest curse: homosexuality. I don't think I'd buy that one.
No, I feel a bit put off.
A penetrating study of society's greatest curse.
Also didn't need the word penetrating.
No, not really.
Thanks for joining me to be told we're a curse.
I didn't say such things. You showed me the book. You're the one who told me.
Thanks for joining me to be told.
Oh, I thought I
So we could be told together.
I thought you meant I came along and told you, and I was like, you're the one who showed me that. Love you.
Mwah. Yeah, no, they're not winning any awards for sensitive or accurate portrayals of sexual minorities. Or creativity, actually. In the 1950s, as we all know or can imagine, homosexuality wasn't perceived very well in the public opinion, and these books are very trashy. But these books gave a genuine lifeline to a lot of women who were unable to see a true representation of themselves in the world, although they were never intended to fall into the impressionable hands of young women. Impressionable? I mean, if we take that metric, I probably shouldn't read Winnie the Pooh to Rupert, for fear that he might grow up to be a giant yellow bear with an aversion to wearing trousers. These books instead became a stable way of understanding what it meant to be a lesbian, when there were no visible role models to look up to or follow. Kellgren-Fozard, who compiled the 2005 anthology, Lesbian Pulp Fiction, described the books as water in the desert to the women who could see themselves nowhere else. A lesbian watering hole! Imagine that. Even though these pulps were created before my time, obviously, I mean, this is something I can connect to. It's something that I think a lot of us connect to. I remember that special feeling of going to the one bookstore in my city that had lesbian books. Yes, I did just say city. I lived in Bristol, which is the 10th largest city in the UK, but there was still only one freaking bookstore with LGBTQ+ books. And staring at the shelf of books for teenagers and feeling a special kind of way when I found one that included lesbian teenagers. Because yes, you can connect to a character who shares some of your personality traits or your interests or your dreams for the future, but can they always get a freaking boyfriend? Or that's the storyline, and that's fine, each to their own. But I have to deal with heterosexuality every single day. It's all around me in the world. It's nice to have a place I can just relax, a book that makes me feel comfortable. Even if I don't have that much in common with the main character, personality-wise, even if it's really poorly written, even if it's set in a time period that makes no sense. Is this just me? But I feel often when I'm reading LGBTQ+ books, I spend a lot of time trying to work out when it's set, because they're either too okay with the gay or way not okay enough, and then the historical details don't align. Like, how do you have cars but you talk like you should be riding horses? Suddenly realised that pulp books are the precursor to fan fiction. I'm gay all day, every day. I have a wife and a baby and I live in the gayest city in the UK. Yeah, it actually calls itself that. There is no one I am not out to, but even I feel sometimes that watching lesbian media is like taking my shoes off. I just feel comfy and relaxed. So I can only imagine how incredible it must have felt to see themselves in print for these lesbians in the 1950s and 60s. Surprisingly, lesbian pulps were actually readily available to purchase in most American drugstores, bookshops and airport newsstands, displayed side by side with stories of alien invasion and comic books, allowing many women the easy access to purchase. Why yes, the comic book is for my daughter, the alien invasion story is for my son, and the lesbian novel is for my husband. Of course, madam. This must have been quite a freeing feeling for repressed folks at the time, especially in a society that already had the vision of gay people as immoral and curable. Probably a good time to point you in the direction of my other queer history video where I explore conversion therapy, which you should definitely check out if you'd like to know more on the topic. Content warning, obviously. Click the card in the top left of the screen or go to the link in the description to watch. And although not all of the pulps were radical and life-changing, within their pages lay proof that these women weren't alone in the world. Probably the most interesting extract from Artemis Smith's 1959 novel Odd Girl, which came out 10 years before Stonewall, shows a confrontation between the main character Anne and her father. "No daughter of mine is going to be a lesbian," he said the word with intense hate. "I'm afraid you have nothing to say about that," Anne said quietly. "I am what I am." "You're a victim of this awful woman," her father spluttered. "She has you hypnotised." "No, Dad," Anne continued quietly. "I've always been this way. I won't be changed by you or anyone else. This is the first time my life has really felt bright and happy." "You're breaking the laws of nature," her father said. "The law I'm breaking is against nature," Anne returned strongly. "The law will have to be changed." We like Anne. Anne was a badass. These lesbian pulp fiction books, which were written by women, definitely changed the narrative, but it has to be said that even in these more radical tales, authors like Smith were still at the mercy of their publishers, who forced them to include sad endings like throwing themselves off high cliffs, renouncing their sexuality, or being paralysed by grief or abandonment by their lovers. Their argument being that, the readers just wouldn't want to see these women fulfilled by their lesbian desires and relationships. Can't a gay girl catch a break? Although these lesbian pulp fictions were not intended to appeal to and benefit women, it cannot be overlooked that if the men had not bought so many copies and caused them to be so wildly available and popular, they wouldn't have fallen into the hands of those who needed them the most. A real conundrum there, so let me know what you think in the comments below. All of this has got me thinking though about the value of representation in the media, normalising relationships between women and the progression to seeing the happy endings that these folks craved back in the 50s. We've got some great programmes out there that deal with themes of relationships between two women. Gentleman Jack, Feel Good, Dairy Girls, Killing Eve, Orange is the New Black, to name just a handful. On the surface, some could argue that these shows do cater towards a male gaze, i.e. the sexualisation of women, offering men the chance to view intimate scenes between women. They're broadcast on primetime television and on-demand platforms whenever they fancy. However, they obviously offer the rest of us the opportunity to gaze on as well. And the real question, much like with the lesbian pulps, lies behind the intention of the storytelling. Who are these writers writing for, and what's the wider story? Some of the lesbian pulps were written by women for women. They merely used the element of male titillation in order to get published and to get out to their intended audience. We're obviously getting better at seeing a range of different stories being told in many people's truths, but there's always room for more. Just like the lesbian pulps were vitally important to those women in the 1950s, we need to make sure our stories are continually being told for the next generation, adapting, changing, but most importantly, being heard. Leave the name of your favourite woman-loving women fictional relationship below, and we'll see who comes out on top. Battle of the femme couples. Remember, if you need a dose of lesbian wholesomeness, you can always check out the Instagram page I share with my wife, Claudia, @Jessie and Claude, where we post our just everyday adventures, home and life with little Rupert. If you've been eyeing up my pin throughout this video, then you will be pleased to know that the Baby's First Pride pin is indeed coming back to my merch store for this year's Pride Month in a new limited edition colourway. I'll be announcing more on the community tab, so keep your eyes peeled. And if you'd like to see more of my jaunts into history, then click the card in the top left-hand corner of the screen and let's have some fun together. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already, and I shall see you in my next video. Mwah.